Hi everyone, today's objectives is factoring trinomial of the form ax squared plus bx plus c with the leading coefficient of x squared as 1. Factor completely if the polynomial is prime. Now, before I do anything else, prime means you cannot factor. For example, 2 is prime. It's just a number in itself. 4 is not a prime because you can have 1 times 4 and 2 times 2. So if you have more than the number times itself, if you have any other pair, it's not going to be prime. That means you cannot break it down. Now, example number 1, notice the leading coefficient is 1. So that is a very important identification. Eventually, we're going to do leading coefficients not 1. Okay, so in this case, it's just a special case. One thing I want you guys to think about this, if the leading coefficient is 1, that means chapter 5 we do binomial times binomial. So we're going to turn this x squared plus 5x plus 6 back into 2 binomial parentheses. For example number 1, what times what equals the 1? Because the 1 is based the number in front of the x. And then so in this case, if that's 1, would you say 1 times 1 equals 1? Technically, it's really 1x times 1x give you x squared. But I just don't want to write down extra work if I don't have to. So we're going to break that down. Then 6. The last term right here, it's a positive 6. We are not going to worry about the sign until we decide to put the puzzle together. So give me a minute. So when you do that, I want you to think about, remember when we do the factors and we do it in pairs, make sure you go down the list so you don't miss any pair. So I want you to start with 1 times what give you 6? 1 times 6. Then I'm going to ask you, what's the next one? That's going to be 2 times 3. Then you notice if I do 3 times 2, oh, I have all my combinations, so I'm not going to use 3 and 2 anymore. That's done. So we have the combination. The most important thing is when you are starting put it together, x squared is just 1 times 1. Because that's 1x times 1x because the 1 in the front. And then what you're going to have next is you are going to put the numbers that when you multiply them, it's going to be matching up to a 5, positive 5 in the middle. So let me show you the wrong way first. So you pick any number. So let's start with 1 and 6. If you put down 1 and 6, cross 1 times 6. 1 times 6, that's 6. If you do 1 times 1, that gives you 1. When you add the 2 together, when you're checking, when you add them, do you get the 5 in the middle? No, I don't. You get 7. So that's wrong. So 7 is not going to work. But if you change it, if we do 1 and 1, I do 2 and 3. Now, if I crisscross and multiply, you get a positive 2, a positive 3. When you add them together, that's a 5. I got the middle number right here, 5 and 5. That's both positive. And then when you multiply the side, 2 times 3, that also equals positive 6. That's how you check it. And one more thing you need to check is 1 times 1. Does that give you the 1 right here? And in this case, everything is checked out. This part checked out, this part checked out, this part checked out. So hopefully you understand the first one doesn't work, the second one works because the first one, when you add after you multiply crisscross, it's going to be 7. And we want a 5. So the only way we can have is 2 and 3. So now to write your answer, we are writing it sideways. Sideways means answer goes this way. It's going to be 1x from here. Put the x there. 1x. Now, since it's the positive 2, so it's plus 2, you have another parenthesis, 1x. This 1x is from here, plus 3. And that is going to be just x plus 2, x plus 3. Example number 2. Leading coefficient is 1. So therefore, I'm just going to put down 1 times 1. Then the 12, I'm going to write down all my combination of multiplying. It's 1 and 12, 2 and 6, 3 and 4, and then 4 and 3. I did all my combination. Which two numbers do you think have a possibility of 7? Well, I would think maybe 3 and 4. What you're going to do is 1 times 3 is 3, 1 times 4 is 4. I got my positive 7. But what kind of 7 do I want? I want a negative 7. So now, here's how we're going to manipulate your signs. I can actually change my signs Because if I change this become a -3 and -4, the second number is going to have to change because 1 times -3 becomes -3. 1 times -4 is -4. That will give me -7. And because that -7, I notice this answer checked. Let's try. -3 times -4, does that give you 12? Yes. Is 1 times 1 give you 1? Yes. And the answer again is going to be written sideways. And when you written sideways, it's going to be this way. It's going to be x minus 3 sideways and x minus 4 sideways. That's how you do factoring. Let's try one more. I hope by now you guys can see the pattern start to come out. So in this case, again, the first leading coefficient of x squared is 1 times 1. And 15, write the numbers above it because if you don't, you're going to miss combination. 1 and 15, 3 and 5. And you already said 4 doesn't work. 5 times 3, I got all my combination. So therefore, you don't even have to write down all of them. So which one is going to give you the 2 in the middle? 3 and 5. If I multiply, I have a positive 5, I have a positive 3. But I want a -2. Which number should be negative? Well, if I do -3, I got positive 2. So because I put the -3 on this side, I'm going to put the -3 right here. 1 times 5 is 5. 1 times -3 is -3. I got my 2. And -3 times 5, this one is check, this one is check, -15. This one is check. Writing my answer sideways again. Just x minus 3, x plus 5. You guys try number 4 yourself. So please pause your video right now. So for example number 6, the answer is a minus 3b plus a plus 5b. Because if you guys take a look at it, I have break down the 1 and 15, 3 and 5. And then 3 and 5 will be the choice that give me 2 in the middle. I need a positive 2, so I need a positive 5 and -3. And therefore, there's my 2. And my -3 times 5 gives you the -15. 1 times 1 gives you the 1a squared. And the answer for example number 7, m minus 2n times m plus 2, 9n. Pause the video and check back with your answer. Here's the answers for example number 8. M minus 6n times m plus 4n. Example number 9. When you look at example number 9, you should notice and recognize that they have numbers and letters in common. So we need to pull them out. So we need to get GCF. So this is one more twist to the simple problem you had before. Eventually, you will have to decide on all the factoring you will do, that they all have GCF. So that will be the first step I'm going to have you guys check every single time from now on. So to do that, I'm going to write out the problems one more time so we can pull out the GCF. So that's going to be 3m n to the third. I'm going to pause the video. I want you to take a look at what do they have in common. They all have a 3 in common. So that's m n to the third plus 4m n to the second minus 32m n. Then you should recognize they both have m and n in common because that's the lowest exponent from all of them. What you're going to have is n squared plus 4n and minus 32 mn, and because the mn is what you factor out, you won't have mn left. So now what you're going to have is 3mn times n squared plus 4n minus 3. Now we have to check, does that parenthesis part right here can still be factored? That's what it calls factor completely. If you cannot factor out completely, you have to make sure you do that. So when you do all this, it's going to be 1 and 1 and 3 and 1. So if you take a look at, if you have 1 times 3 is 3, 1 times 1 is 1, that will give me 4 in the middle. But the problem is it has to stay positive. So how do you get this negative right here? That is not going to work. And because it's not going to work, You say, but how about if I make it both negative? Well, but negative 3 times a negative 1 is not going to give you a negative 3. So that's not going to work. How about if I do 1 is positive, 1 is negative? All right, negative 3, then plus 1, that's not going to work. And then if you have negative, if you have the other way around, switching the number positive 3 and negative 1, that will still not going to be work. So because all the combination is not going to give you the positive 4n and negative 3, that little parenthesis is called the prime because you cannot factor anymore. So because it is something that you cannot factor anymore, you are going to just leave it. That will be your answer. Next one you are going to do is you are going to try again. Looking at the problem, you should recognize right away they all have x in common. And when you pull out x squared in common, you should have x squared, that's x to the second, plus 6x plus 14. Because you pull out x squared, there's nothing else you can do. But we need to double check, can you factor? So it's 1 and 1, and this is 1 and 14, 2 and 7. That's still not going to be working. So therefore, it's going to be x squared times x squared plus 6x plus 14. And you are done. Next one, you are going to check again. Example number 11. So let's see. We can all pull out y squared. And that's going to give you y squared minus 10y plus 9. As time goes on, it is okay to notice there's only one letter you can pull out and write the answer right away. If that's more comfortable to you, that's fine. If you want to do your little L thing, it's totally fine. I'm going to start switching off, so you should recognize what I did. So now we still need to check again. 1 and 1. If I do 1 and 9, because I have 1 and 9, 3 and 3, definitely not going to be the 3 and 3. But 1 and 9 definitely could have a possibility of 10. If I do negative 9 and I do negative 1, I am going to get my negative 10. And then if I do negative 1 times negative 9, that's also going to give me positive 9. So those numbers are going to check, and so it's 1 times 1 is going to be 1 in the front of the y. So yes, this one I can factor. So the answer is going to be, don't forget, writing the answer sideways is going to be y squared times y minus 1 and y minus 9. And that's your answer for number 11. Notice this is called factor completely. Going on to the next problem. Number 12. Number 12 has so many things involved. So now, because there are so many things involved, I don't want to miss anything. I'm going to take my steps. So draw the L, and I'm going to start with out a 4, because 4 going to 24 goes into 56. So that's just going to be a to the third b minus 5a squared b minus 1 4ab. Okay, so then I'm gonna pull out things they have in common, which is a. We can pull out definitely 1a, because out of all the a, third, a, second, a to the first power will be the lowest exponent. And then I have a b in everybody, so I'm gonna pull out that b. So now what I have left is gonna be a squared minus 5b AB, and you have a minus 14b left. So again, you need to check, can you factor? So let's write it out. 4ab times a squared minus 5ab. Notice there's a b in the front, there's a b in the middle, there's a b square. Right here, should be a square. So minus 14b squared. And when you do that, you can say that's 1 and 1 for the a. And the 14 is going to be 1 and 14, 2 and 7 And that's your combination. And because if you have 2 and 7, that's going to be 1 and 1. 2 and 7 gives me somewhat of a 5. Let's put the sign in, see can we get it. If I do negative 7, positive 2, that's going to give me the negative 5. So that's going to check negative 5. And negative 14 is going to is equal to 2 times negative 7. So it totally checked 2. And 1 times 1 equals 1. So again, the answer is going to be sideways. And don't forget the answer in the front. That's going to be 4ab times a minus 2b times a minus 7b. That's the example. That's the answer for example 12. I would like you guys to try example 13 yourself and see can you get the same answer. Please pause the video right now. Alright, for the last example, number 13, I noticed I pulled out 4x, what they have in common, and the answer y squared minus 2y plus 6 comes out. And because if I try to come up with a number that's 1 and 6, 2 and 3, there's no way with a combination I will be able to get the negative 2 in the middle. So therefore, this is the prime part, P-R-I-M-E. This part is prime, so you cannot use any way to factor it, so that stays just the way it is. So that's what prime stands for. Now, sometimes I will even just give you a problem. For example, y squared minus 2y plus 6. If I give you a problem saying factor y squared minus 2y plus 6, you should be able to say this 1 and 6, 2 and 3, it cannot give you, so therefore it's prime. And that will conclude the notes for 6.2. Thank you so much for watching.